How long is forever? Starfire is attempting to get the Titans to celebrate a holiday from her planet, though they spend their time arguing until they get an alert to fight Warp, who is robbing a museum. As they're fighting the time-based villain, he opens a portal to escape through, but Starfire jumps in after him and is able to stop him partways through the leap forward. However, this means she has dropped off 20 years into the future, into a nearly abandoned Titan's tower, except for Cyborg, whose cells have died, rendering him unable to leave the building without losing power. Beast Boy failed at a solo hero career and is now a one-man circus. Raven has completely shut down mentally without her social contacts. And Robin is now Nightwing, a solo hero who helped Starfire fight against Warp while telling her about how the rest of the Titans slowly drifted apart once she disappeared 20 years ago. Nightwing and Starfire return to the museum to fight Warp, with Cyborg, Beast Boy, and Raven joining the battle as well after Nightwing activates his old communicator, something they all kept. They're able to destroy the device keeping Warp in time as Cyborg reconfigures it to send Starfire back to her original timeline. Back in the present, Starfire reappears almost as quickly as she disappeared, and her regaling the tale of what happened in the future convinces the Titans to celebrate the holiday after all. Cyborg has had to deal with his components going out of date before, and this episode's Jump to the Future elaborates on his tech becoming obsolete. Considering that the Teen Titans is over 20 years old, meaning this episode technically takes place in the past now, one only has to look at the change in the state of tech to see why he would be so slow without the resources to keep up with the times. The communicator belts the Titans used were once considered high-tech, but today the idea of a smartwatch is considered mundane. Beast Boy and Raven have both pulled out of society, with Raven withdrawing completely, while Beast Boy stays on the edge, using the mockery as a shield from having to get too close to the public. Robin, now Nightwing, has perhaps the most chilling implication in his future. The fact that everyone else struggled to work alone while he thrived in a new environment plays into the previous season's arc of Robin growing further and further away from his friends, the implication being that he can survive without them and therefore might try to. The first time Starfire confronts Warp in the future, she demands that he undo all the damage he has done to the other Titans, assuming he is responsible for the sad state of their lives. But Warp confirms her real fear, the fear she had at the start of the episode. The Titans drifting apart was not the doing of a villain, but an inevitability of their relationship being based upon work. But during the third and final fight against Warp, the rest of the Titans put aside their various hang-ups to work together despite this, proving that even if they do drift apart, there's no reason they have to stay apart for good, nor a guarantee they have to drift apart in the first place. Starfire learns that her leaving was the thing that caused them to leave afterwards, so as long as she stays, they'll all stay, at least for the time being. Every dog has his day. Beast Boy is unable to find anybody willing to hang out with him, and his attempts to mingle with others don't succeed either. A green dog runs by, chased by a flying saucer, and the ship abducts Beast Boy instead of the other pet, which the Titans then assume is Beast Boy. But this dog keeps running away, and after a chase montage, they finally catch up to realize it's not really a dog but some sort of alien. Using Raven as bait, they capture the mutt, and it speaks to them, saying he escaped from his owner and didn't say anything before because he was having too much fun leading them around. Meanwhile, aboard the ship, the captain, Soto, is a large, block-like alien who insists Beast Boy is his pet, entertained by the shapeshifter's antics. But the Titans are able to track him down and force his ship to land, resulting in a fight scene that ends when Beast Boy himself is able to break his bond and escape. The green dog then interrupts, demanding that Soto release him for good as he is tired of his owner, and Soto agrees that they can simply switch roles, donning the collar and reboarding the ship. Not every episode of Teen Titans has some moral or moment of deep character introspection. This episode borders on having one, with Beast Boy being desperate for attention, only to be fed up with it by the end. But there's an obvious difference between hanging out with your friends and being abducted by an alien. This episode, like some of those in the past, is just something meant to be silly. Beast Boy's abductor, Soto, even serves as an XP of the abominable snowman from the old Looney Tunes shorts. One half expects him to say something about Beast Boy, that he'll love him and hug him and pet him and call him George. Teen Titans takes obvious inspiration from anime of the decade, and this includes something that I am loath to call filler episodes. Filler is technically an episode made to pad out the length of an adaptation while the source material catches up, but these days it more so refers to an episode with no direct bearing on the plot, which is a bit reductive as we can still get character moments to endear the cast to us. Without these, we wouldn't care about what happens to them in the more plot-heavy episodes later. Terra. The Titans respond to a giant scorpion chasing a girl, only to see this girl destroy the scorpion herself with rock-controlling powers. She introduces herself as Terra, and the Titans are impressed enough with her skills to invite her to stay with them. But Slade has noticed her as well. She spends the night with the Titans, with the teens realizing she likely hasn't had a roof over her head for some time. When she overhears them discussing training with her the next day, she tries to leave as she cannot control her powers. But Beast Boy learns of this and assures her that he won't tell anyone and things will be fine. For a while, it looks as though he's correct, and Terra succeeds at an obstacle course. But when Slade attacks a mine nearby and she accidentally causes a cave-in during the fight, she runs away again, getting trapped in a tunnel with Slade, who promises to train her to control her powers. But Beast Boy catches her in the middle of losing control and causes her to cool down, returning to the Titans Tower to be formally inducted into the Teen Titans. But when Robin points out that she still needs more training, she assumes Beast Boy told her secret, and she leaves, the episode revealing Slade is still watching her. The Titans themselves has failed before. Cyborg lost power in the middle of a mission, Raven once traumatized a man because she lost control, Robin forgot key aspects of leading a team due to trying to infiltrate Slade. All of them have at some point lost control, and Terra's no different. Of course, she does not know this as they all seem to be on the outside, very in control of it all. They have one another to rely on, and so they can mask their real insecurities at times, and at other times show the vulnerability needed to admit their shortcomings and then overcome them. Terra has never had this. By her own admission, she's always been a loner, running from place to avoid the ostracization that comes with a lack of control of her powers. Because her worldview is informed entirely by herself and her reactions to herself, she does not understand that imperfections don't define a person, but rather the work to improve on those imperfections do. So when Robin's able to deduce that she doesn't quite have control over her own powers, she assumes this means she's a failure, because she's never seen any of the Titans struggling with theirs. Terra thinks that she is the only person who has ever failed, and her reaction to her failure informs her decision to be swayed by Slade later. The first person who has treated her shortcomings not as a secret that has to be kept, but a problem that can be solved. Only human. Cyborg collapses during training once his motors hit their limits, in spite of the rest of the Titans cheering him on. He pouts and retreats to play video games by himself, ignoring their attempts to cheer him up, and trash-talking an online opponent named Atlas. But then Atlas challenges him to a rematch in person. He appears at the tower and begins to fight Cyborg, defeating him in single combat and capturing the rest of the Titans as trophies, saying he'll only return them if Cyborg challenges him to a rematch. Cyborg agrees, but once more he's no match for Atlas as he cannot give more than 100% in the battle. But in spite of the pleading of Atlas's mechanic, Spike, he refuses to give up the Titans as he agreed to. In Atlas's base, Robin watches the mechanic get mistreated by his master and persuades him to stop following a man who doesn't respect him, as Cyborg talks himself back into another match, arriving at the stadium again to fight Atlas, who's now without his weapons as he does not know how to equip himself. Spike frees the Titans who, rather than joining in on the fight, simply block Atlas from running away. He's forced to fight Cyborg one-on-one, but this time Cyborg is able to give more than 100%, as it's only the robotic parts of him that are held back, and he is able to defeat his enemy in a fair fight. Once again, a Cyborg-focused episode is about his human and robotic sides clashing. This time, the fact that his robotic limbs have an upper strength limit, and his human side is held back by them. This sounds like criticism, but it really isn't. Cyborg's struggles with the two sides of his being are interesting enough to warrant multiple looks, and these different looks distinguish themselves by taking different angles of that relationship. In The Sum of His Parts, Cyborg considers his robotic parts to be a limitation, one that he tries to overcome, and then decides against it, by completely giving in to the aspect of what he is. This time it's his robotic parts being the limiting factor, with Cyborg fondly remembering the days where he was able to improve himself just by pushing harder. While everyone else is improving, he is at a permanent plateau, but his upper limit is thin compared to that of Atlas, a completely mechanical being. Atlas is stronger, but only because his parts are being improved, not because of himself, but another man who does the work for him. So sure, Cyborg's mechanical parts might hit an upper limit, but it's the assistance of his friends that gives him not the strength to win, but the motivation to instead focus on what he can do instead of what he cannot. Fear itself. The Titans fight against Control Freak, a TV-obsessed nerd with a remote that can animate objects. And after defeating him, Beast Boy finds a new release of a horror movie he insists the others watch. But that night, strange screams are heard in the tower during a thunderstorm, and the power gets cut. The Titans try to fight the monster from the movie as it comes to life, and Raven finds her powers don't work against it. Beast Boy at first thinks the movie they watched was haunted before getting dragged away. Robin suspects that Control Freak has returned for revenge, but after finding his remote still in place, is dragged into the walls by a shadowy creature. Starfire and Cyborg search for the others as Raven insists that she is not scared, and Starfire gets swarmed by strange creatures before Cyborg disappears without a trace. Raven is left alone, getting attacked in the elevator to the top floor, then being surrounded by all sides by the monsters from earlier. And then she finally admits that she's afraid of what's going on, giving her control of her powers once again. After dispelling the creatures, she passes out and then wakes up surrounded by the others, who reveal that she was subconsciously creating the enemies as a means of letting out her fear through other means. Raven's powers have already been established to work via emotional regulation, meaning that it's a point of pride for her not to let other people get the best of her. Repeatedly through the episode, we see Raven arguing that she does not do fear, and that the movie and subsequent events around the tower have not affected her. But this is a lie, as it would be with anyone and not just Raven. Trying to forcibly suppress your emotions will result in these emotions getting let out one way or another, and not always in a way immediately understandable, like somebody refusing to open up until they throw a tantrum over what seems small but was really a last straw moment. Raven is afraid, but because she's so good at not showing this fear outwardly, she instead expresses it inwardly. And because she prides herself on the fact that she does this, she cannot join the other Titans in enjoying their emotions, even those that appear outwardly negative like fear. Because they were afraid, but once the movie turned off, they laughed about it. Raven had nothing to laugh about until the very end, when she finally acknowledged that showing emotion isn't a moral failing, even if she does have powers associated with it. Because emotional regulation is not just about hiding your emotions, but in expressing them through healthy, controlled amounts. Date with Destiny. A man with the spider for a head is fleeing after robbing a jewelry store, paralyzing Robin in the chase. He and Starfire return to the tower for some Tamaranian acupressure to let him move again when they get called by Killer Moth, whose swarm is destroying a bridge, and he declares he will only call off the swarm if Robin takes his teenage daughter Kitten to the prom. Starfire's furious about their arrangement, but Robin agrees as the other Titans are overwhelmed. He arrives at prom and it's immediately clear that Kitten is only dating Robin to make her ex-boyfriend Fang jealous, and her loudly proclaiming all the things they're doing together makes Starfire feel this way as well. But while the couple is dancing, Fang arrives on the rented boat, the Spiderhead man from earlier, and he tries to get back together with Kitten by offering the stolen jewelry from before. Meanwhile, the rest of the Titans have infiltrated Killer Moth's lair by investigating Kitten's address, discovering his swarm of moths have been released when Robin refused to kiss his daughter. But they seal the exits as Starfire is able to blast the detonator out of Kitten's hands, with Robin destroying it and returning the moths to a larval state that Beast Boy finds cute, as the rest of the villains are taken away. Another silly episode, largely existing to ship a few characters and have a villain motivated more by the comedy of the situation than the plot. Killer Moth is intimidating, able to bring the Titans to a full stop during a battle, and yet for all the presence he has on screen, still has to kneel to his bratty teenage daughter. This daughter then manages not only to boss Robin around, but inexplicably manages to overpower an enraged Starfire during prom, driving home the idea that the Teen Titans are, well, teenagers. They have the same hormones, same amount of self-control, and so on. It's easy to forget that when they're dealing with large-scale threats and taking on huge amounts of responsibilities, but at the end of the day, they're just as mature as anyone in the audience might be, and by examining this immaturity through a humorous lens, it makes them much more relatable. Transformation. Starfire develops a Fooly Cooly style horn on her forehead and worries about it in spite of Raven trying to assure her it's just a zit. But when she also develops spikes on her neck, furry feet, scales on her arms, and so on, she begins to hide her appearance from her other friends. But when fighting Plasmus, her raincoat is knocked off, revealing the transformation, and she flies away in shame. Starfire floats around the galaxy looking for a group that will take her in, as the Titans refit the T-ship for spaceflight and go after her. Eventually, she finds a glowing woman who assures her that her Tamaranian transformation is completely normal, and soon she will turn into a chrysalis, as well as the fact that this woman is actually a chrysalis spider who eats them. But before she can enjoy her helpless meal, the other Titans arrive on the scene and start to fight, though to little success. That is until Robin tries to help Starfire escape from her cocoon, insisting that he doesn't care how she looks and revealing that she's returned to her normal appearance, though she now has eye lasers, which help to take out the monster before the Titans return home. Starfire undergoes a Tamaranian transformation that I'm just going to call alien puberty. Starfire begins puberty in this episode, using strange growths and scales as a metaphor, since just giving her a few zits wouldn't have had the message appear as clearly. She considers herself a monster, made worse when some of the Titans' insults directed towards Plasmas are interpreted under a different context, and she assumes people will make fun of her. Importantly, the long scene of people laughing at her after her cover is blown is something entirely in her head. People are focusing on survival, not her appearance. But because Starfire herself cares deeply about the new changes, she over-prioritizes them and assumes everyone else does the same. She then has the opposite takeaway later, not just believing that she's a freak, but assuming that she's alone in being one. Her sister only had a few minor changes for her alien puberty, although one can imagine she had much more and simply kept herself hidden as Starfire did. So her feelings of loneliness were spurred on, not by having no one around to talk to, but nobody around with the same experience to talk to. And then, because she was alone in the struggle, she was able to be manipulated by someone who had seen Tamaranian transformations before and could take advantage of the fact by eating her. When teenagers have aspects of their puberty hidden from them by authority figures who avoid bringing it up, it only means that they will learn these things from someone else instead. Maybe someone else with less than pure intentions. Titan Rising. The Titans are playing volleyball while Raven meditates, only for their game to be interrupted by the return of Terra. The Titans welcome her back, though Raven is a bit hesitant to accept her, in spite of a showing of her now controlled powers. Before they can argue this point, a giant burrowing worm attacks Jump City, and they rush out to stop it, though when Terra tries to lunge a large rock at it, Raven stops the rock mid-air, as she's unsure Terra can use her powers safely. They then follow the worm underground, splitting up to reach a subterranean layer Slade has been using, discovering that his plan is to have these worms combine and sink the Titan's tower underground. Despite Beast Boy, Starfire, and Cyborg managing to destroy the upper worm drill, Slade is able to have the underground part of the drill break through while he fights Robin, and the tower begins to sink. But Terra tries to raise the tower back to the surface, aided by Raven, and they are able to return Titan's tower to its previous resting place. For her efforts, Terra is made a full-fledged member of the Teen Titans and given her own communicator. Raven and Terra both have similar powers in the sense that whether or not they can keep their emotions in check determines whether or not they can control themselves. As Raven has spent her whole life controlling herself like this, she knows the difficulty that can come from constant vigilance. Even this season we've seen her falter a bit and nearly get the others injured. So of course it would be Raven who is skeptical of Terra suddenly becoming much more in control after just a short time, accomplishing something that she herself still hasn't managed in many years. Because this improvement in a short time is suspicious, so Raven does not trust Terra completely enough to let her use these powers unchecked. But Robin's wisdom wins out over these suspicions, saying that everyone deserves a second chance. Because if you only give out trust to people who are proven not to pose a threat or a risk to you and your friends, then you don't really want trust but blind obedience. Even if Terra still has a tenuous hold of her own powers, being able to support her in spite of her mistakes is just what teammates should do. This is the lesson that the Titans learn in this episode, and it's the fact that they learn it here that makes later twists much more impactful. It's one thing for a mole to work their way into your organization, but another for that mole to be the one to teach you how to trust other people. Winner take all. While playing a card game together, Beast Boy, Cyborg, and Robin are suddenly vanished, transported to a tournament of heroes led by the Master of Games. He promises prizes to anyone who wins. The Titans, as well as 5 others, all compete in one-on-one fights over the course of the day, with Speedy, Wildebeest, Cyborg, and Robin making it to the second round, while the losers get sent home. But Cyborg grows suspicious of the idea of being sent home and tries to recruit Robin to investigate. though Robin suspects this is just a plan to exhaust him to gain an advantage in the next day's fighting, so Cyborg gets sent alone. He discovers that the Master of Games is actually absorbing the losers into an amulet that allows him to use their powers. He is defeated and disqualified from the tournament, leaving Robin and Speedy to team up against Wildebeest in the final round to finish their newly developed rivalry. But after Robin wins, Speedy asks him whether it was worth it, causing Robin to grow suspicious of the tournament. Suspicions confirmed when the Master of Games tries to attack him. Robin is able to break the amulet, freeing the others, who then continue the assault to earn everyone else's freedom, and Robin makes all of them, except Gizmo, an honorary Titan. The episode ends with the Master of Games resurrecting to kidnap Woman for the Tournament of Heroines. Last season's arc established Robin as extremely competitive, but then mentioned that these things were not negative traits. Here, this lesson has to be partially unlearned, as that competitive spirit causes him to refuse to investigate further into a suspicious tournament. Had Robin been a bit more skeptical and a bit less willing to do anything to win, then he may have humored Cyborg's attempts at an investigation. He doesn't even suspect something is wrong when the guy disappears during the second day, as he easily believes the lie that Cyborg was disqualified for tampering with the other contestants. This competitive spirit is also exaggerated here as Robin meets Speedy, a skilled archer, and turns the man into his rival. Having a rival can drive people to work harder and be better, but these ideas can, as we see here, be taken too far. But perhaps the lesson wasn't completely unlearned, as the fact that it was Robin who won the contest means that it was Robin who fought against the Master of Games in the end, the strongest competitor having the highest chance of an actual victory. This is compounded by the fact that Robin had just defeated most of the other fighters, and those who he didn't beat directly, he had at least known about beforehand. He'd defeated Gizmo in an earlier episode with the help of his allies. He'd worked alongside Aqualad before, and during the tournament he fought Hotshot, Wildebeest, and Speedy. He has spent years fighting alongside Cyborg and Beast Boy, meaning Robin had had some interaction with all 7 of the fighters that the Master of Games took his powers from, and those fighters had the benefit of experience. Betrayal. Terra is working alongside the Titans to fight against Slade, defeating him in a minor skirmish before returning to the tower for the night. But later on, Beast Boy asks her on a date that she at first rejects only to come to his window later and fly off with him. The two go to a few places where Terra was a regular before the Titans took her in, ending up in an amusement park where the two finally have a proper date. But Beast Boy notices that she's not enjoying herself very much, and Terra tries to confess something to him, only for Slade to interrupt and reveal it himself. Terra has been working for him for some time, and she has assisted in infiltrating Titan's tower. Beast Boy tries to give Terra the benefit of the doubt, but when she turns to Slade's side, he tells her off for faking affection for him, and then betraying his feelings. At the tower, Cyborg, Raven, Starfire, and Robin are fighting against Slade's minions, who have managed to get past the disabled security systems, and they deduce that it was Terra who allowed them in. They succeed in winning the fight, but are also aware that all their information and weaknesses are now known to their enemies. This season's plot has been building up to Terra's eventual betrayal, that she never felt as though she belonged with the Titans due to her internal issues, and went along with Slade as he was willing to tell her what she wanted to hear, namely, that she was weak but could be stronger and that she could train in a teacher-student environment where being the second in command is a matter of fact rather than an uncomfortable truth. People who look down on themselves will naturally be drawn to people who look down on them, and Terra accepts that Slade looks down on her. What she does not accept is the opposite, that the Titans would treat her as an equal, because she herself cannot understand why they do this, so she assumes it's just an act, much in the same way her friendliness was an act up to that point. Beast Boy spends a while fighting on Terra's behalf, believing that it's impossible for her to be a bad person, and reinforcing the idea the show's had for some time. There is no such thing as a good guy or bad guy. People are just people, and sometimes they do good or bad things. This is why Robin gave Terra a second chance before, and this is why Beast Boy gives her the benefit of the doubt here, when Slade starts to speak for her. It's not until Terra confesses that she did indeed willingly go along with the man, remembering that he's manipulated Robin before, that Beast Boy finally accepts that she was lying, although in this case was only lying about her loyalty to the Titans rather than her feelings about them. Fractured. Robin chases a biker named Johnny Rancid through the streets, ultimately crashing his motorcycle when he tries to mimic a bridge jumping stunt and breaking his arm. He retires to Titan's Tower to rest up when a tiny Robin named Nozyarg Kid, Dick Grayson, but they call him Larry, pops out of his head, explaining that he's from the 5th dimension and wanted to help. Basically, he's a comic fan with reality-bending powers popping into this universe. But Larry fails to heal Robin's arm with his universe-altering finger, which winds up broken in a scuffle, and Robin and the Titans find themselves transported to a crudely animated version of Jump City. They try to race back to Titan's Tower to return Larry to a portal that opened up so he can get his powers back, but Johnny Rancid beats them there and transforms the world into an edgy horror-verse. But spurred on by Larry, Robin decides to join in the fight against him with weaponized whimsy, and is able to eventually defeat the guy, returning the universe to normal. Robin then offers Larry another chance at fixing his arm, forgiving him for messing up last time, and Larry accidentally transports Robin outside the universe. This is the seasonal pre-finale comic relief episode and thus doesn't have too much thematically aside from Robin feeling demotivated by his mistakes. So instead of talking about a point that's pretty clear in the narrative itself, I'll instead use this opportunity to point out something a bit more obvious, the fact that Teen Titans uses an anime-esque art style without abandoning its comic book roots that it draws character inspiration from. Larry interrupts the theme song a few times, his appearance and fourth-wall breaking antics reflecting the Western animation style of characters with what would be reality-bending powers were this not a cartoon. He can manipulate the fabric of the universe, but we, the audience, recognize the powers for what they are, a simple awareness of the medium that the show takes place in. Like Wile E. Coyote painting a fake tunnel on a wall that the Roadrunner then goes through, we're not expected to literally assume that Robin has a tiny man in his head who will solve his problems for him, but to instead look at Larry as a nod to the audience by the creators. Aftershock. At Slade's command, Terra attacks the Titans, revealing several new powers she had never used before. Slade explains that this is because her new suit allows him access to her abilities, controlling them remotely. The Titans end up retreating, planning on whether they should go all out against her or if she can still be trusted, and with Beast Boy's pleading, they decide she gets one more chance. Terra, meanwhile, has broken Cinderblock, Plasmus, and Overload out of prison, placing more of Slade's remote controls on them so he can access their powers. They attack different points around the city, splitting the Titans into smaller groups that Terra then ambushes one by one, exploiting their weaknesses to take them out. When it's only her and Robin left, the two fight as Robin assures her that she can still break free of Slade's control, but Terra says she prefers it this way, and buries him underground. Terra is patrolling Jump City alongside many of Slade's robotic henchmen, having completely taken over after defeating the Teen Titans. But she keeps hallucinating her old friends in various parts of the city, and then the real team arrives and begins to attack her from the shadows. She asks Slade for assistance, but he keeps trying to get her to do all the fighting herself, eventually attacking the Titans with a hybrid of his henchmen from before. While the rest are preoccupied with this monster, Beast Boy goes off alone to track down Terra and Slade, eventually getting into a one-on-one fight with her, where he pleads for Terra to resist the control Slade has. But this control is more literal than it seems, with Slade's technology having merged with her body to prevent her from controlling her own powers. She's about to finish off Beast Boy when the rest of the Titans join her, telling her not to attack him with various words from threats to reminders. She attacks Slade instead, and Terra is finally able to break free from his control. But in the process, her powers have created a volcano that swallows Slade in its torrent of lava. She urges the rest of the Titans to leave, and in one final act, hardens all the lava and turning herself into stone in the process. This two-parter is the culmination of Terra's arc in Teen Titans, at least insofar as her relevancy as a hero is concerned. The story she's followed up to this point is a story of someone self-conscious about her lack of control over what she can do, running away from the consequences of her actions again and again, until finally meeting somebody who promises not to judge her for her mistakes, only to then be manipulated by this person. When someone is consistently told they're a failure, they start to believe it, usually not even questioning whether their failures are even that, or if the person talking down to them is simply trying to make them feel a certain way. Terra felt like she was a failure and then looked for a person who felt that way. When the Teen Titans learned that she couldn't control her powers, they did not treat it like a failure, but a first step in a long journey they themselves were also taking. But Slade told her what she wanted to hear, that she was wrong for lacking control and had to fix this part of her. A person who believes they're broken will look to fixes to what's wrong with them, assuming that it's a quick fix and that they only have to repair what's there instead of changing their point of view to learn there's not a problem if you can work on it. And so Slade's quick fix for her issue of lacking control is to give her control, just not her own. Up to this point, he was the one dictating what success meant to her, and therefore he could dictate what a failure was as well. When Terra was being overwhelmed, she smartly made the decision to retreat and request backup, but this was not an option for the person telling her what to do, and so the smart thing was not the right thing. People who lust for power tend to value obedience over intelligence. It took Terra some time to recognize this due to her craving for acceptance. When the Titans accepted her, she rejected them because she assumed they had an agenda. When Slade accepted her, he had a clear agenda. This to her made sense, as she would rather be with someone openly evil than someone whose intentions she couldn't recognize. But when she did recognize the real intentions of the Titans, as they had forgiven her again and again, she finally realized the manipulation for what it was. But by then it was too late to stop. At least according to Slade and Terra. Beast Boy assures her it's never too late for anything, that wanting to do the right thing is all that really matters, and this is why she is viewed as a hero at the very end. She might have started the volcanic eruption, but she put a stop to it too. She might have helped take control over Jump City, but she put a stop to that. And then she managed to prevent future incidents from occurring, by throwing Slade into the lava, defeating him once and for all. At least, so we're told.